Good evening, everyone. How are you? Happy New Year. First year, At this time, I would like to call to order our Wednesday, January 11th meeting of the Board of Education of Elementary School District 159. Roll call. Here. Here. Palmer. Phillips. Yes.
Here.
Meeting called to order. Please stand for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mission statement.
Our mission statement is to educate, empower, and inspire the whole child.
Thank you. At this time, our Board of Education Committee reports. The board has not officially had any other meetings for this year, but I did want to bring to the board that I had the department's needs come up with dates that were best for them. So the dates that they chose for our building and grounds is to be January 30th, February 27th, March 27th, May 1st, and June 5th. Our policy committee will meet January 31st, February 28th, March 28th, May 2nd, and June 6th. Curriculum, best dates for them were February 1st, March 1st, March 29th, May 3rd, June 7th, and TFL approved dates. Finance and HR was February 2nd, March 2nd, March 30th, May 4th, and June 8th. So I will have these copies sent to all the board members, and this will take us at least until the end of the school year so that we can start bringing back our committee meetings. And thank you all to department heads for getting these dates together for me. Outside of our Board of Education Committee reports and getting our dates scheduled, the next thing on there is our Board of Education retreat. Just wanted to remind the community that we will be having a board retreat so that we can collaborate, get new ideas, give our directions, our vision, and things that we would like to have as a board, along with our new superintendent. As you all previously know, it was rescheduled, so our new scheduled date is now February in 2023. So I think it is February 4th, which is not the Super Bowl call. So it will be that weekend. So I just want to be transparent with the community, let you all know that we do have a board retreat coming up for our board. And that will conclude the Board of Education report. At this time, I will turn it over to our superintendent so that she can give us our superintendent report.
Happy New Year, everyone, and greetings. Before we get into everything, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone in our community. Over the weekend, everyone is aware of the incident that we had. We are happy to say that although it's still an ongoing investigation, things have been resolved and there is no longer any threats to our community at this time. But I want to extend a thank you to our Board of Education for their leadership during that time. The Matheson Police, as they collaborated in partnership with us, they were amazing. And all of the community members that sent in tips and information, and how important it is that in order for us to have a healthy community, healthy children, we must have a healthy community. And I really want to say to all of our parents, all of our students, if you are in need of any kind of social emotional supports, please reach out. Please reach out. We are here to help you and wrap our arms around you as a community. And then my last plea for parents is to understand that all of the social media that our children are being exposed to, it is very important as a parent, as a community, that we are monitoring what our children are doing. All of the different social media platforms, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of them, YouTube, if they want to have a YouTube channel, they must be at least 13 years old to even be on those platforms. So parents, please make sure that you're monitoring what they're doing, because they're being exposed to so much that is influencing them to make some very poor choices. And we want to make sure that, again, to have a healthy children, we have to have a healthy community. So let's work together. Our safety and everything about our safety, that's a shared responsibility. So I just want to say that. And again, thank you to everyone who helped us during that time. And then I will move on. So one of the things here on the board report, my report, is the Articles of Joint Agreement of the Southwest Cook County Cooperative Association for Special Education. We are, along with District 113A, 117, 118, 142, 145, 146, 160, 210, 228, and 230, we all are part of the Southwest Cooperative for providing services for our students with special needs. We have a joint agreement that we just, as my board, they have to agree on, and it really just states that we as a district, elementary school district 159, we will participate in the meetings, we will attend, and we were having some issues with some districts who were not participating, but were reaping the benefits of being part of the cooperative. And being part of the cooperative is that we have a shared responsibility for funding and how those services are provided for our students. And so basically this agreement is just asking and making sure that we are in agreement with the fact that we will attend all of the meetings and participate. I sit on the board and I represent our school district. So that's what that joint agreement is, and then the board will vote on that and move forward. I'm going to go to the attendance update, and because STEM and teaching and learning and accountability will actually they both have presentations. So I just want to give the community, our December enrollment at this time is 1752. Colin Powell has 220 students. 607 students. And then Neil Armstrong has 285. Woodgate has 333. Maria Yates, 260, and Stephen Prairie has 267, which brings us a total of 1752. Our student attendance for the month of December for Colin Powell is 89.9, Maria Yates, 88%, Neil Armstrong, 90%, Stephen Prairie is 89%, Woodgate Elementary, 89, and Woodgate Pre-K is 85. So again, families, we have some work to do. It's really important that our young people are in attendance. And at this time, we'll have our STEM director, Cherie Davis. She will come forward and she will give you some updates on what we are doing as it relates to our STEM curriculum and the opportunities that we're providing our students. So Ms. Perham and Ms. Davis.
Good evening and Happy New Year to you all. My name is Cherie Davis and I am the STEM Director for our beautiful district, and I also have Ms. Pearl with me this evening, who is my STEM Coordinator. I just wanted to talk to you all about some of the things that we have planned for STEM education in the district. I do like to see that STEM has a broad focus across our district. I understand that we have this beautiful center here and we have these lovely expectations for our students, but we have to have those expectations of our students in the classrooms as well. So first and foremost, again, as I was saying, the STEM education begins in the school building. It is a teaching approach where we are addressing science, technology, engineering. I like to include the A in there for the arts and math. And so a lot of the times, yes, you see STEM, but I do prefer the acronym STEAM because we need to encompass all of those subject areas when we are addressing our students with that. The standards, it covers a wide variety of standards. And so, of course, you have your science standards, NGSS, but you also have your Common Core standards that we need to make sure that we are addressing with the STEM education that we're providing to our students in the district. In addition to that, we have our technology standards, so that's ISTE, and what's coming down the pipe is already hit the high schools are our computer science standards. Our students, as they transition into high school, 9th grade, they are having to take computer science courses, and so us as a district, we need to be able to prepare our students to be able to go into high school with those skills. The STEM education is also based on the engineering design process and design thinking. And so while we see these interesting activities and these interesting outcomes that our students have as a result of doing these activities, I want you all to realize that it is a process. Students start off with a problem that they are trying to figure out. They have to do some research, they have to ask some questions, they have to do some planning. Then there is the creation, and then if that creation doesn't work, then we got to go back to the drawing board. So it is a process, which again is why I say STEM education begins in the classroom. So part of our plan as a team is to address those areas in the classroom with our students, and I have it broken down into stages. So for our younger students, our pre-K through 4 students, we want to begin to address what the engineering design process looks like with our students in the classroom. That comes by way of, again, integrating into the classrooms, working with our teachers, finding where our teachers are with their students with regard to the core curriculum, and making sure that we as a team are aligning to that information. The second stage of that, we are addressing our older students. So as our students have been through the engineering design process, then we begin to get into the application of that. Here are some problems that our students are going to be presented with. Here are the materials that we can provide to you as a STEM center, as a district, so that our students are able to have success, have failures with these projects in the classroom, because ultimately they are learning from the mistakes that they are making in the classroom when it comes to STEM. Again, we are aligned to our district core curriculum, and so as we have these conversations with our teachers in the classrooms and what they are doing with their students in the classrooms, we are able to come in and support them with that and provide them with the materials, with the lessons that they are able to do with their students in conjunction with us. The last thing that I have on there, because we are aligned to our district core curriculum, we do have a lot of supplemental materials that we have brought in with the STEM Center. And some of those things include Boot Up and Amazon Future Engineers, and that came by way of our Amazon grant that we have. That is a coding program based on Scratch that we are able to do with our students. Creative learning systems, you may have heard that before, because the Applied Technology Lab over at Colin Powell utilizes their curriculum. But what you will find as you continue to do research with regard to STEM is that there are not a lot of programs out there that cater to our younger students. And so what I had to do as a part of this research is to break this into pieces and to look for things where I would be able to meet the needs of our K-2 students. And it is still a work in progress. And so I have connected with creative learning systems for our foundation space. Next Wave STEM, they are providing us information with regard to our aerospace lab and drones. Green Our Planet, I always say this wrong, I always want to say Green Our Garden, but it's called Green Our Planet. And they are a hydroponics program, so we're able to bring in, we have it, it's coming at the end of January, and we are excited to have it, a hydroponic garden that will be housed here in the STEM Center, and then we have some satellite hydroponic gardens that we'll be able to give to our students and our teachers in the buildings for their classroom. Project Lead the Way, and then we also have a partnership with Cook County Farm Bureau, and there are other things on the horizon. So what does it take to get over to the STEM Center? Because I know that the focus is we got to get over to the STEM Center and get in here and work with our students, and we are definitely working on that. So the 2 weeks before we went on winter break, I actually opened up the STEM Center to our teachers and students so that they could come over and see the STEM Center and see some of the things that we had to offer. So we did conduct an introductory activity with them, but now going forward, again, we want to make sure that the activities that we are doing with our students are aligned to our district curriculum. So we are in the process of getting ready to prepare our teachers for coming over to the STEM center so that we can align the activities that we are working on with them to what they're working on in class. So the first step of that is a two-week planning process, because that's going to allow us time to talk about the goals, the standards that are needed to be able to address those goals with our teachers, as well as to be able to schedule transportation to get our students over to the building. The second part of that, again, planning. We want to make sure that this is aligned to our state standards, as well as that we are meeting the objectives of that lesson or that project for our teachers and their students. Preparation, that's going to involve myself and Mrs. Perham working with the teacher to do some co-planning, to do some modeling. Our teachers are going to need some professional development, and so that's why I asked for that 2-week turnaround, because I'm able to provide them with professional development over the course of those 2 weeks, so that when they bring their students over, they are also able to help us facilitate the activities that we are doing with our students. Co-teaching, that gives us an opportunity, again, to go into the classroom and work with our teachers and students and give them that first access to the programs that they'll be exposed to when they get over here to the STEM Center. Number 5 on there is transportation. We all know where we stand with transportation, and so I do have to work with the bus company to make sure that I can get the teachers and students over here to the building so that we are able to complete these activities with our students. And then the last piece of that is the culminating project, the whole cycle. We've gone through this whole entire cycle. What does that look like? What did our students produce as a result of going through this cycle? Some of the questions that I'll have when we meet with teachers, when we're doing planning and preparation, will be, where does this fit with the scope and sequence? So we have a scope and sequence for all of our subject areas, and so where does this fit in line with the scope and sequence? Where are you in the curriculum? How can we make this align with what you're doing in class? What content standards are being addressed? So again, we want to make sure that we are addressing our Illinois state standards. What are our goals, our objectives for this lesson or this project that we have in place? What is the timeline for that? So again, we can make sure that we are meeting our teachers and our students' needs. The schedule for the STEM Center, so myself and Mrs. Perham will then schedule the teachers so that they are able to bring their students over here. It may be one day, it may be several days, but that's a part of our planning and preparation process. The transportation piece, and then lastly, the culminating project. So some of the plans and future opportunities that we have, I've listed a couple of FACE events on there. We had our first FACE Family STEM Night that was in December. We had a very good turnout. Again, that was just an opportunity for families to bring their students over to see what we have to offer. It is and was by no means all we have to offer and what we are planning to offer to our students, our staff, and our community as it pertains to the STEM Center. We do have another family coding event that will happen in April. We have some grant-funded opportunities that we have been presented with. I've actually been presented with some more, but I have not fleshed out the details of all of them yet, so I listed a couple here. We have a Saturday coding workshop that's coming up, so I am putting the final details on that and seeking approval for that this week so that I can get that information out to our parents and students in the community. I mentioned the hydroponic garden that we have gotten that was by way of grant. Aviation and aerospace STEM career enrichment, I've been in talks with a vendor with regard to that, so that is something that is in the works. That will be after school and or Saturday opportunity for our students to have. And then also a parent technology basics workshop so that we have an opportunity to get our parents in to talk to them about technology, some basics, some things that they may need some additional help with. And it'll be especially helpful when we get back to the beginning of the school year to do some workshops with regard to using Power School and learning how to navigate Google and how to check your mind and things of that nature. Last year we did the Summer of STEM. And I got a lot of feedback with regard to that last year, so that is definitely on my plate again. And I've gotten my feedback as I'm putting together a plan for the summer of STEM. And then our future opportunities, we are working with Maxon Public Library on STEM initiatives to partner with them. I snuck one thing in. I would like to be able to add an additional innovation coach to my team because I think that will help us to spread the STEM love across the district. I actually am setting up a meeting with 227 because they offer an agricultural education program, and I would really like to see our students be able to participate in that. That is another side of STEM that is often overlooked for our students, and that is something that would be beneficial to our students. It would happen at Colin Powell, and it would happen in lieu of a science class, and so they would have an agricultural class with a teacher that comes from 227, and they would be able to earn either half a credit or a full credit of science credit at the high school level by participating in that class. And so I'm working with 227 to hopefully be able to bring that to us by next school year. And then I also am working with actually a parent in the district who reached out to me as a result of the Summer of STEM. He is currently an AXO coordinator for DuPage County, but he is looking to implement what's called a junior AXO program here in the district. And AXO stands for Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, Scientific Olympics. And it's an amazing program. It really is most beneficial to the high school students because it affords them opportunities for scholarships to college. And so if students can get into that at an earlier level, they have a better chance of being able to get to those scholarships when they reach high school. Lastly here, just a couple of pictures. These were some of the students that came to visit us before we went on winter break. We had a really good time. The students had a lot of fun there, and I want to continue to do that with our students in the district. So thank you. That's all that I have. If you all have any questions for me, please let me know.
I do have a question. You mentioned that you're working with 227 as it relates to agriculture. I know 227 built a STEM center too. So is there any collaboration on how we can prepare our students? Are we aligning ourselves with 227 to prepare them, not just for the agriculture, but for STEM in general?
I believe that there will be an opportunity. It's not right now. I haven't been in talks with them for that because the first opportunity right now is that agricultural education. And once we get that established, I do believe that there's opportunities for more collaboration.
Okay, and then because all of this is so new and it's so much planning and preparation that has to take place, we're really not, I'm stating it, but I'm asking. Are we really preparing for it to be full-blown this school year, or are we going full-blown next school year? Because I think it's important for the community and parents to understand that we verbalize what's happening.
This year is a planning year, so it's a lot of testing, trial and error. I think that it would be best to say that we would be full-blown for next year.
Thank you.
So my question, you mentioned that you wanted an innovative coach, I guess someone to support all of the educational things that you're trying to put in place, but what is the difference between you, your assistant right now with adding a third position with?
So the way that I look at it is that we have 3 rooms over here to accommodate classes. There are 2 of us, and if we had a third person, we could have 3 classes in each of those rooms, so that's why I was looking for a third person.
Okay, just with a different title? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
At a recent conference, there was a vendor there that I spoke to about agriculture. And they said that they actually had people that would come into the school to assist and set it up. Is that something that you've heard about or know about?
I'm aware there is it's a student organization, it's Future Farmers of America. We've been in talks with them, and they offer some services like that as well. So I don't know if that's the same person that you.
I'll look through my notes because it was very interesting to talk to them. And I know there are some schools out this way grade schools that have that program. So I'll look through it and I'll send you an email.
Okay. We have a partnership with Cook County Farm Bureau as well, and
That might be.
they send us supplies and then agricultural magazines that we have the 3rd through 6th. The 3rd through 6th right now.
I'll look at what I brought home and we'll talk.
I have another question. So as it relates to the summer programming, when will we be able to kind of let parents know about that? Because those parents start looking February, March, what they're going to be doing for the summer. So is there any idea of when you'll be able to provide them with information? How many students you'll have capacity for, et cetera, how long the program's going to be, yada, yada.
I would say probably the end of February would be enough time, because I want to reach out to teachers to see, who's available to do teaching as well. And then if I need to secure any additional vendors for that program, then that will give me enough time to do that.
Can I step in? So we met with the union yesterday to start talking about the calendar for next school year, which of course would be including the summer. And so our goal is to have by late February to have a draft for a calendar so that we can then have it approved by the board in March, so that we can let them know about summer school, ESY, STEM, with all of the offerings that we're going to have for the summer. So the goal is late February to have just a draft that is approved, and we're going to collaborate with the union and then have one for you all to have to approve, and then we'll be able to let all our parents know all the offerings for the summer.
Typically, in the past, we've always had, 1 or 2 board members on that committee, so that, we practice that. Yes.
So we decided to streamline it, and so but we could talk about it in closed session. But we talked about how we could make it move a little bit quicker, starting with them looking at the current calendar that we have, giving us their feedback on the pros and cons of the current one we have, and then they provide us some feedback, and then we come up with the feedback, the draft, and then we give it, and all of this is happening simultaneously, so the board will be looking at it, the administration and the teachers union. So it gives everyone right at the same time, because what happens is if we try to put together a committee and people can't make the meetings and all of this kind of stuff, I've done this in the past this way, and it's been really, really streamlined and quicker, and then we'll be able to take everyone's feedback, put together a draft, and then simultaneously everyone's looking at it, and then we make a decision. But I can walk through that. It's just quicker, streamlined, and we can get it going, because if someone misses a meeting and then someone's not there and there's no representation, then it kind of slows down the process, and we really do want to let parents know by March what the calendar is and what the offerings are for the summer.
If we can just remember to kind of look at 227, because you have older siblings and younger, we kind of missed some days this year. Thank you.
And then I had one question. Thank you for all of that information, but in regard to the professional development for the teachers, will it just be PowerPoints, or will they have hands-on learning? Because I've been asked to please have some hands-on learning.
It'll be hands-on learning. That's the best way to learn, to me. You come in and you get your hands dirty just like your students. As we're going through the process with the students, the engineering design process, the teachers need to go through that too, so they can know what that struggle feels like.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asked at. Thank you.
And now we will move to our teaching, learning, and accountability team. If you haven't noticed so far, our theme this evening is we're elevating and celebrating. We're giving you some, letting you know of the good work that has been going on, and we're now about to highlight a lot of the great things that we're moving in the right direction as it relates to teaching, learning, and accountability. Our focus is for the year, and what you can expect to see as far as the educational experience for our young people. Mrs. Fields.
Good evening, board members and families. I am so excited to be here today because we are making progress with teaching and learning, and I'm excited about that. I was really pleased to hear Mrs. Edgecombe ask about the quality of professional development. My focus this year is Tier 1 high-quality instruction as it relates to the teaching and learning framework. That starts with very high expectations of what you believe students can achieve. Without that vision, we will never get students to their full potential. So right now, the focus is high-quality Tier 1 instruction. How will we do that? Utilizing our core curriculum and understanding how to utilize supplements appropriately. Supplements are not the teacher. Instructional videos are not the teacher, they're supplements. The teacher stands before the students, performs the gradual release of responsibility by modeling, utilizing instructional strategies, and says, today, I will teach you the 3-read strategy. Everyone say 3-read strategy. And then your students come home and they tell you, today I learned to use the 3-read strategy. And Mom, let me tell you what I can do with that. So high quality Tier 1 instruction is whole group instruction, it is small group instruction, and it is explicit. It is data driven, it is monitoring student progress towards a goal, an end of year goal, but also incrementally, where should they be? It's the utilization of the scope and sequence by backwards design and saying, what are the strengths as it relates to the data? What are the areas of opportunity for growth? And how can I plan out individualized instruction to support each of my students in meeting their goals? So what we've done with my team, and my team is the heartbeat of the district.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And they are everything because I have very high expectations of what I want them to do in a very short period of time, but they are rising to the occasion. And so for that, I am extremely grateful. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my team. This is O'Donovan.
She's eager. She's ready.
This is Billy Parambo. Ms. Parpan, Ms. Davis, we all work together as the team and the heartbeat of the district, and we are ensuring that your students in the next 3 to 5 years will be college and career ready. And that is my promise. So now I would like to put our money where our mouth is and show you a little bit about what we've been doing.
Good evening and Happy New Year. As Ms. Field said, my name is Lisa O'Donovan. I'm the Math and Science Coordinator for the district and a very happy team member of the TL8 team. I'm very happy to be here. So I want to take some time this evening to kind of share what our team has been doing because we have been really, as Mrs. Field said, rocking and rolling with our teachers to help get them ready for the next level. So to start off with, our focus has been on the Teaching and Learning Framework, Domain 1, which is planning and preparation. So as a team, we have broken up all the grade levels across the district at each building, and we each have teams of teachers that we meet with. So we're meeting with grade level teams in each building to host individualized professional development on the teacher's planning time during the school day. So we're meeting in groups of 2 and 3, as well as their district, or as their building administrators, to help them and support them with the planning and preparation process. Our focus has been on performance-based objectives, academic vocabulary being explicitly taught, and implementation of the core curriculum. So for ELA, it is HMH, and for math, it is Reveal. So we have been hosting team meetings on a weekly basis with teachers to help support in that process. One of the first things we did in our meetings was provide them with lots of support materials, and we walked them through the process. One of the wonderful things about having team level meetings is that it's more individualized. So we can have conversations about where are you in the scope and sequence. Let's talk about what you're struggling with HMH. How can we best support you? And so that individualized professional development has really been integral in helping grow our teachers as we move forward. So some of the documents that we have provided teachers with included guided planning discussion questions that they could go through and ask themselves as they're planning for their students. Oftentimes we find that we plan for what's next, right, in the curriculum. I'm going to turn the page and this says that's what I should be teaching, but we wanted to transform that. We want you to be planning for your students in front of you, not just what's coming next in the curriculum book. Looking at the content areas, scopes, and sequences, essential components of the lessons, really utilizing our educational epiphany materials in terms of those performance-based objectives, looking at samples of lesson planning. So we provided teachers with samples of lesson plans for reading and for math so that they had an idea of how can I use my core curriculum to plan an effective lesson. What does that look like? I'm a visual learner, so I gotta see, right? You gotta show me. And also looking at the educational epiphany and academic vocabulary kits.
And let me say one other thing about that. So what was critically important to me for my team is that they assess where teachers are. Every teacher is at a different place, no matter how many years you've been teaching. You have a different level of expertise based on the type of leadership that you've come under. So some teachers know how to use their data to drive their instruction, and some do not. So what I've asked of my team, which was very different from anything they've ever done before, is to, instead of being building facing and book facing, to be person facing and school facing and supportive of teachers and their practice. And one of the things I coach them on before I push them into the schools with a very specific focus is to be prepared for pushback, be prepared for this being very different for them, and to walk in love and to say, hey, this is very new for them. So when you approach them from a place of kindness, professionalism, and psychological safety, which I learned from my dynamic superintendent. And so I told my team, I said, listen, you guys, we know that this is new, but this can be done, and I want you to listen to them, because she has us reading this book called The Listening Leader, and I'm learning from the tenants. And so I said, I want you to listen to them, I want you to take the feedback, I want you to collect it as data, and we're going to use that data to drive our planning and to individualize the support that we provide to each of those teachers. And we can't wait for anybody to do it. We have to do it, and we have to be in there, and we have to be in there every day saying, this is the levels of support that we can offer you. This is the book, but this is how you use the book to bring teaching and learning to life in your classroom. And so these are just the structures that I've supported the team in putting in place and really coaching them and developing a well-rounded system and a support plan. That's been the most critical component, is not really so much of where we are, but where do we move from here? Like, what is the root cause behind why teachers don't implement high-quality Tier 1 instruction? Is it because it's not expected, or because it isn't inspected?
Next, we have some examples of some of these documents that we provided to our teachers. You will see the essential components. This is of a middle school math lesson that was provided to our math school teachers. We also have it for ELA, so that teachers have a guideline of what a quality lesson should include. So when I'm planning, I can make sure I include all of those components. A sample of the lesson plan. We did use the ESD 159 template so that teachers could see how can I effectively use this template to plan for my instructions for my students. Next we have our lesson planning protocol. We use this in conjunction with Educational Epiphany, and we combined it and tweaked it to fit our needs. So we took what Dr. Dickey had provided us with and said, how can we utilize these materials to best support the learners that are currently in front of us? And we came up with this lesson planning protocol, and what it is it's a list of planning questions for teachers to go through and really reflect on their planning and think about the steps that go into planning for instruction. Rather than depending on our curriculum to be the end-all be-all, we really want them to dive deeper and think about how they can utilize these materials to help meet the needs of the students that are in front of them. Next we have our scopes and sequences. The district has scopes and sequences for all of our content areas: social studies, science, ELA, and math. We actually have them on a user-friendly website, so the teachers can log on, pull up their scopes and sequences. The scopes and sequences are a roadmap for our teachers. It's not an end-all be-all. It's not saying that this is the absolute thing that you have to do, but it definitely gives our teachers a guide so that they have an idea of where they should be, so that we are ensuring that we are hitting all of our instructional expectations for the entire school year. We want to make sure that we're staying on course so that we do address all of the Common Core state standards and all of our NGSS standards before the end of the school year, and we don't leave our students going to the next level without all the skills that they need to be prepared. Next, we have our Educational Epiphany Objectives chart. This is a sample of one that we created. One of the objectives for Educational Epiphany is using performance-based objectives, and those were provided with all of our Educational Epiphany materials. We as a team sat down and we said, okay, how can we best support our teachers to utilize these materials effectively? We want to make sure whenever we put anything in the hands of teachers that we make it effective for our teachers to use. So we made user-friendly charts with the performance-based objectives, and we aligned it to our current curriculum. So you will see for the ELA performance-based objectives, it aligns to where the teachers are going to address it in the HMH curriculum. For math, you'll have the performance-based objectives with the standards as well as where they're going to hit it in the Reveal Math curriculum. So the teachers can see, these are my objectives, here's where I'm going to address it in my core instruction.
Mrs. O'Donovan, can you talk to them quickly about the difference between what a learning standard is and a performance-based objective is?
Absolutely. One of our goals this year is to help our teachers align their instruction to performance-based objectives. And what that means is that not only are we giving our students, and I believe if you go a little bit further, there's a video. But what that means is we're not just giving our students a list of skills we want them to address. We are giving them objectives that we want them to hit, but also tying it to how they're going to apply it. So looking at, okay, we want you to be able to identify main idea in order to, what am I going to do with that? So not only being able to perform at a certain level, but apply those skills within our day-to-day instruction. That's what the whole goal of it was. Do you want to go ahead and... Mr. Short, where's the sound come out?
Right now, that's as loud as it is.
Wow. And number one is pretty controversial. Here we go. Put on your seatbelt. This was controversial. All right. Stop writing state standard on the board. It doesn't work. Because if it would have worked, it would have worked a long time ago. So instead of having teachers write that entire anthology of the state standard on the board, what's more important? Okay? Stay with me. I promise you I'm going somewhere. Here it is. Instead of the entire state standard, I recommend, and the research has proven it, that it's effective, a performance-based objective. And why performance-based? Because when kids get to the end of the grade, they get to the end of the course, what are they going to do? They're going to take a performance-based assessment. So our objective should be performance-based. It should be one part content, with what I have on the screen in red. One part content, and one part higher order thinking. The content is what students must know, and the higher order thinking is what kids must do with what they now know. And so I see three types of objectives across the country on our classroom board. Number one, law. It's not connected to any state standard. It contains some type of misplaced component, or it's too focused on engaging kids in some activity. Like if you see, okay, today we're going to do a jigsaw. Okay, that's an activity. That's not content. Maybe you use a jigsaw, but it's not what you want kids to go home and say they did. Right? You want them to know content and how to use the content to do something more complicated. Okay, so then the second type of objective that I see across the country, and I'm looking at 40 states now, I see content-driven objectives, which means it's right from the State Department's expectations, right? But it falls short of requiring kids to do something higher order in nature with the content that's been downloaded in them. Now, the Shangri-La, the Sistine Chapel of objectives, it is the performance-based objective because it answers two questions. What do students need to know, and then what are they going to do with what they know?
One of the things we noticed when we did our beginning of the year walkthrough through the classrooms was that a lot of our teachers had content-based objectives. They were linked to the Common Core state standards, but there was no opportunity for a connection to a higher order thinking activity. So we have been working with our teachers, our teams of teachers, to really develop their understanding of what that looks like and what that means for our students. right? It's not just placing it up there on the board. How do we effectively utilize that within our instruction to make our objective effective for student learning and student outcomes? One of the other things that we have been utilizing this year is the Educational Epiphany Literacy Kit. This goes along with our goal for universal language. So one of our goals that we have really been pushing with our teachers is using the same language across the board. So if I'm learning about, say for example, main idea in kindergarten, I'm using the same vocabulary in kindergarten that I'm going to use in second grade, that I'm going to use in 7th grade as I move through. So they have an understanding of what the academic language is as they move through the grade levels. This is essential in terms of when we start thinking about our state testing, right? If the question is asking them to explain, what does that mean? What does explain mean? What does identify mean? So really utilizing that same core academic language across and explicitly teaching it to our students, right? Not assuming that they know what it means to identify, right? So being able to utilize these materials within the literacy kits. All the teachers signed out their literacy kits. They received 2 different parts. The first part you'll see is our blue literacy kit box. This contained 4 different sections of academic vocabulary in terms of the base words, the prefixes, suffixes. The purple cards are the universal language of literacy cards. Those are the more testing type vocabulary you're going to see. Identify, explain, those types of things that we want to make sure that our students are using that same language throughout K-8. So our teachers can utilize this to explain when they have their performance-based objective is. One of the things our expectations is that students are explicitly teaching that. So if my objective is to be able to identify the main idea, what does it mean to identify? What is the main idea? I'm explicitly teaching this to my students before I even open up the book to read a story. I want them to be able to identify those words and explain those words and talk about those words before we even start our instruction. So we provided those for our teachers as well. So the second thing we did is after we started hosting our team meetings and really diving deeper into what does a performance-based objective look like, how can I utilize these materials in terms of HMH and Reveal Math in order to have my performance-based objective. After I explicitly teach my academic vocabulary, now I'm really getting into my core instruction. So what we did as a team is we recalibrated. We provided pop-ins, and we were seeing where are our teachers at, right? How much progress are they really making? And this, along with what Ms. Field said, is it allowed us to really develop our team meetings to meet the needs of the teachers, because we could see it in action. What teachers were really thriving, and we could move on to another objective. What teachers might need a little bit more support, or what are we still looking at in terms of getting our teachers to where they need to be to get our students to the next level. So we provided these pop-in observations, and we used our tool in order to collect data so that we can calibrate and see where we are for all of our teams.
One thing, simultaneously as we're working with the school leaders to develop what we feel are professional learning communities. So when we take that data, we find out the strengths and the areas of growth for each of our teachers. We then are working with coaching our principals on how do you leverage this data to support the development of a professional learning community that learn from one another, conducting peer observation cycles where if I know that I've collected data from my observations of classrooms and instruction, but I see that there's a strength area of this teacher, I would have you observe that teacher practicing in that area and have you identify 2 to 3 takeaways, or it's leveraging the supports to strengthen the entire school environment, and that's how we'll develop out our professional learning communities. But it's about collecting the data and using the data to strategically plan out the next move. So you kind of have to monitor it and watch it as you're growing and developing and building the plane as you're flying it, as I like to tell my team. I was like, okay, well, a wing is falling apart over here. We need to add additional support. So one of the things Soup says is that we don't decrease the expectation, we increase the support. So when we find that there's a deficient area or there's a teacher that's not able to effectively implement the performance-based learning objectives, the next step is how will we differentiate our support, increase our support to help this teacher be effective. high-quality Tier 1 instruction.
This is the example of the walkthrough tool we used, and we did those pop-ins where we spent 10 to 15 minutes in each classroom to see what was happening, so that we could spend that time to differentiate our support within our teachers. Every classroom. We, in addition to our pop-ins, as we call them, we provided teacher feedback. So based on the data that we collected, we provided feedback to all of our teachers to say, these are your glows, these are your grows, here's how we can support you, so that we can continue to move forward. So we had our glows and our grows, that's what we call them, right? Our really shining stars, this is what was really great about your lesson, and then here are some areas of growth for you. The next step we did was we are continuing to provide our grade level team meetings in terms of implementing those performance-based objectives as well as the academic language in conjunction with HMH and Reveal Math. So not only were we focusing on that, we also want to make sure that our teachers feel comfortable enough to implement instruction effectively using that core curriculum. And how do I pull out those pieces that are going to be most effective for my students in front of me? How do I use that data that I collect from all of my assessments, whether it's NWEA, my formative assessments, my summative data, in order to plan effective instruction using our core curriculum. We want to make sure that they are using all the components of our core curriculum to be effective within their classroom instruction. One of the things that we noticed was some teams were ready to soar, right? They got that performance-based objective, they were doing awesome with the implementation of explicitly teaching the academic vocabulary, so we were ready to push them. So the next thing we started to talk about was, how do I connect my performance-based objective with my student outcomes? So we asked some of our teams who were prepared to bring student samples to their meetings, and we sat down and we looked at, here's your lesson plan, here's your performance-based objective. Let's look at your student outcomes, your student samples. How does it align? Is it aligning to what you're expecting your students to produce? How are your students producing it, right? Are your expectations meeting it? I had one team of teachers that came to me and she said, I was blown away. I did not expect this student to do this, and look at what this student did. And those are the types of conversations that give you the tingles, you know? It's like, yes, you're getting it, right? And so being able to make those connections and see those light bulbs go off. So it really has been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and our teachers are really taking off with it. We do have some examples of some of the things that we're seeing in our classrooms. So here's some evidence of change of the performance-based objectives. So you can see the teachers are posting their objectives. They have their I can statements with their in order to. Because remember, one of the key points of our performance-based objective is that it's linked to a higher order thinking activity, right? They have to be able to apply it somewhere. So we have a 4th grade ELA example, 6th grade science. We have some teachers that chose to do it on paper and they post them every week. They even have their assessments that they have up there, their essential questions that they utilize. So wonderful, wonderful posting of the objectives that we have been seeing. So evidence of change of the instruction as we're moving through our classrooms. Here's an example of a video of teaching the vocabulary in action. Go ahead, Ms. fourth grade classroom, and what she's doing that you can see is she's explicitly teaching what the objective is, and then she's explaining the academic vocabulary that's in there, and she's connecting it to an activity that they already had done. So that purple poster, and we have a picture on the next slide, is actually a vocabulary walk that she did with her students in terms of story plot, and being able to plot out the different elements of a story. And there it is right there. So you can see all of the connections among the teaching. The students not only know what their objective is, what they need to know, they're able to explain the vocabulary, and they're connecting it to activities that they have already participated in. This is an example of a kindergarten lesson plan that we had, and this was my kindergarten team that I worked with that really did a fantastic job of not only taking our initiatives and running with it, but applying it within the classroom, and they were so excited. And they were able to share with their teammates within their buildings, and it just took off, and it spread like wildfire. And it was amazing to see the excitement, as well as the impact that it had within their daily teaching. When I would do my pop-ins in the classroom, and even Dr. Brunson popped in, and we could definitely see all the improvements that the teacher had made with not only their planning and preparation, but their implementation as well. And then next we had our student samples. So our objective for this meeting was to look at the lesson plan for the week, look at the performance-based objective, and then compare the student samples. So her performance-based objective was students will be able to respond to text by drawing and writing a complete sentence in order to write for a purpose. So she brought a low, a medium, and a high, and we were able to sit down and really talk about what her expectations were, what rubric she used to grade her students, and looking at how is she going to support those students that didn't meet the expectation. Because this group was ready for now a discussion on small group instruction. Okay, so we have our high, medium, and low. What are we going to do to support our students that may need some additional support? And how are we going to enrich those students who are ready to move on to the next? And that comes with our small group instruction. So as we continue to meet with our teams and we continue to differentiate our support based on where our teachers are at. So it really has been an amazing experience. Our team has really taken it and run with it, and our teachers are showing the improvements. So we are very, very happy with the improvements that we have seen across the board for this first semester. We included some example of the feedback, the emails that we sent to our teachers after our walkthrough. So this is one with the glow and the grow. We always have an action plan for our teachers. What are the next steps, right? We always have to continue to grow. And then we also include feedback to the building principals, so the building principals are aware as well what we're seeing in the classroom, what our recommendations are, and what the next steps are for that teacher that we're working with. So our next step as a team is we're going to continue our support with Educational Epiphany this Friday. Dr. Digby will be joining us to meet with both the TLA team as well as administrators as we continue on our support.
In closing, I'd just like to say tomorrow, in partnership with Educational Epiphany, we will be conducting instructional learning rounds at each building, which means we will take a walkthrough tool, identify specific grade levels, and we will conduct observations of the practices that we've begun to plan for, prepare for, and implement. So now we can decide now which direction to take it in. Again, it's differentiated. Every teacher and teacher team is at a different place. So it's very tailor-made to fit the areas of support that are required at each of those levels. And just in closing, I'd just like to thank my team. They've been doing an amazing job. I change things at the last minute. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and have an epiphany and say, oh, I thought of something. Can you guys make this change? I think it would be very powerful, but that's what great leadership is, not being afraid to demonstrate flexibility and responsiveness in response to student needs. So thank you so much for the time, and I hope that you're pleased with what our team is doing so far.
Absolutely. Is it possible for you all to upload this to our board docs as well as your STEM PowerPoint?
Sure, we'll share it with Mrs. Lewis so that she can make sure that she updates it for you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions before we move on?
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job, team.
TLA, 3 TLA. They often hear
our agreement, Dr. Field.
Yes, All right. Thank you again, and thank you all for your tireless work and, yes, being very flexible. The expectations are very high. We have much work to do, but we wanted to let you all know that there is so much progress, and we appreciate the teachers for being vulnerable and for being open. And I'm really proud of the team for when there is pushback or when there is hesitation, that, as Mrs. Fields said, we always come through with love, kindness, and respect, and making sure that we're going to still do the work. We'll just say it nicer. But it really is important for us as a complete team and as a complete school district that there is not one school that everyone wants to attend. Every single school needs to be a high-performing school, no matter where it is or no matter which one it is, that all of them are, I'm very competitive, and so I'm just letting all these other districts know we're coming for them, and it's all good. Just had to put that out there.
One thing occurs to me. I love your energy, your oh, yeah, now it is. I love your energy, your enthusiasm. But I'd like to have some of the teachers come in and tell what the difference has been for them. Because, you all are selling this to us, but I want to see how they really are acclimating to it. So if we could get, over the next couple meetings, get a teacher or two or three to come in and say what this has done for me and my learning or teaching abilities, what I've seen in the students as a result of it, that would be great.
Absolutely.
I'd like to piggyback on that and ask for Epiphany. We have a $305,000 bill that we need to approve tonight, so I'd like to hear some honest, real good, honest feedback on, is it meeting the expectation? Are we getting everything from it that we had hoped to get from it? Or if you have some concerns about it, because we have an opportunity to extend it or not. So if you could just be real honest in your feedback and provide that for us, whether it's you and or teachers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so are you ready, Mrs. Owens? It's your time. Yeah, we're gonna do the audit. You wanna start there?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Board of Education and all of the ESD 159 community and family. We'll begin with the audit. We have the presentation for the audit by our auditor, Mr. Kevin, is it Bissell or Bissell? Bissell. Kevin Bissell.
Thanks for having me here tonight. Thanks for having me here tonight. So I'm going to present some highlights of the financial statement draft, which is in the process of being finalized and should be finalized within the next few days. So I'm just going to cover some highlights for you so you have some information. So during the audit process, management and the auditor have certain responsibilities. As far as management's responsibilities, management is responsible for the preparation and the fair presentation of the statements in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting. This includes the design and implementation of internal controls related to the preparation and the presentation of the statements that are free from material misstatement. As far as our responsibility during this process, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the statements are free from material misstatement. And we've been conducting our audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards.
And as such, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the statements. We obtain an understanding of relevant controls to allow us to design appropriate audit procedures, but not to express an opinion on the effectiveness of those controls. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies and estimates, as well as the overall presentation of the statements. As far as some highlights for the year, the assets and deferred outflows of the district exceeded liabilities by about $51 million at the end of June 2022. $14.3 million of that amount is invested in the capital assets of the district. About $12 million is restricted for certain purposes, and about $24.6 million is unrestricted in that position, which can be used to meet ongoing obligations of the district. Total assets are up about $6 million from last year. And long-term liabilities of the district were about $24.6 million in total. The long-term liabilities decreased by about $900,000 this year, and they were paid down according to the bond payment schedules that were in place. Net position increased about $6.3 million during the year, and total revenues of the district were approximately $48.4 million for the year.
Excuse me, would you go back to that? Just kind of rewind a couple of sentences that what you said. I was writing,
Oh.
it said that we had 24.6 million
Of long-term liabilities,
that
yeah,
were paid according to,
to the bond payment schedules that were
Okay.
received.
and then after that, what were you saying?
Net position increased about $6.3 million during the year. Total revenues were approximately $48.4 million for the year, and that's up about $500,000 from the previous year. Some reasons for that increase in revenue, there were some property tax relief grants that were received, as well as some COVID-related grant funding was also received. Expenses were about $42.1 million. Those are primarily instructional and support service expenses. Those expenses are down about $980,000 from the previous year, and some of that decrease in expenses relates to some contributions that are received from the state for pension contributions. And the district doesn't really have control of those amounts from year to year, but it is a pass-through amount. So that explains some of that decrease that we see here. As far as the funds of the district, as far as the fund statements, governmental funds reported combined fund balance of about $38.9 million at June 30th. There's very little change overall across the district in the fund balances. About $12 million approximately is restricted for certain purposes. $16 million, or about 41% of total fund balance, is available for spending at the district's discretion. Most of this unassigned fund balance is reflected in the general fund, and it represents about 43% of the general fund expenditures for the year. As far as some changes in those fund balances for the year, general fund balance, which is the main operating fund of the district, the fund balance increased almost $10 million during the year. The capital projects fund balance decreased, and that was due to some ongoing capital projects during the year, so that spent down some of the fund balance that had been accumulated. And the transportation fund also showed a decrease, and that was mostly due to a transfer out to other funds.
What accounted for that $10 million increase?
So there were some, again, some property tax relief grants that were received. There was some increased funding, grant funding for related to COVID, as well as some decreased expenditures getting back from COVID. Some of the expenditures were not as high as the previous years. But in total, there was also some transfers in from other funds, but in total, again, it was about $10 million increase of revenues that were in excess of the expenditures.
Mr. Bissell, will we have a written copy of this report? It's me, I'm sorry. Well, we have a written copy of this report. I mean, I really appreciate that you're reading it to us, but we'll have a written copy.
Yes, so once the final draft gets approved, which is in process, a final copy will be sent out and then it will be made available to you for approval. So in previous years, we've typically presented the draft and then formal approval comes later.
And so it'll be one copy or one per member?
Yes, there will have enough copies for.
Thank you.
Yes. As far as the rest of the financial statements, there's some footnotes that show some required disclosures about funds that had expenditures that were in excess of amounts that had been budgeted. So a couple that I wanted to mention, the educational fund had a spending that was above the budgeted amount. And again, it relates to that pension contribution that passed through from the state of Illinois. So that amount, again, the district doesn't really have control of it from year to year, and so it doesn't get budgeted for. So that really explains the deficit that you see in the educational fund compared to budget. Operations and maintenance fund also had expenditures that were greater than anticipated, mostly again related to capital outlay expenditures that were recorded in that fund. Another item I wanted to point out is that one of the funds, the capital projects fund has a deficit fund balance at year end. So something that we're required to disclose and mention. Now I understand that some amounts either have been already transferred into to alleviate that deficit or are scheduled to do so in fiscal year 23 to again address that deficit, which was about a little bit over $8 million in 2022.
Will you repeat that clearly? What account was that? Michael asked.
The capital project fund had a deficit fund balance at year end. And so in fiscal year 23, I believe an amount has already been transferred over to address that deficit, or is in process of being sent over to, again, to alleviate the deficit that had been accumulated, again, related to some of those capital projects and the spending of some of the fund balance that was in that fund.
I didn't understand the number that you mumbled.
About $8 million. As far as the capital assets of the district, one thing I wanted to mention is that the district had about $7 million of capital asset additions for the year. So again, related to the deficit spending in the capital project fund, where you see that is in the capital asset additions that are recorded on the statements. As I mentioned before, the district at year end had a little bit over $24 million at year end of long-term debt. It's primarily bonds payable, and again, those have been paid down during the year according to the required payment schedules.
Excuse me, is that the bond that we can't pay off early? Is that the bond debt, I'm sorry, that we are unable to pay off, we have to pay according to the terms?
In most cases, unless there is provisions for early payment, then you have to pay according to the schedule. So this is what is in place as of June 30, 2022. The rest of the statements, another part that I wanted to mention refers to the single audit that is conducted at the same time as the financial statement audit. And it's really a required audit that takes place when you have a certain level of federal expenditure spending. So again, I mentioned that there have been some increased grant revenues for COVID. So when you have those levels of federal revenues that come in and spend those, it has a single audit that relates to it. So the rest of the statements that you will see when finalized takes care of that requirement to have a single audit for specifically spending of those federal funds. Within that section, there's a couple of findings, which is not uncommon to have findings related to some outstanding checks from previous years which I believe is a carryover from prior years, as well as some timing of some filing of grant reports. And so you'll see that as you go through the final copy. And again, not uncommon to have findings related to these audit, single audits are relatively strict as far as requirements and what is required to be collected. So again, as I mentioned, the fund balance of the district increased during the year. The net position of the district increased during the year. Revenues, again, were in excess by quite a bit of the expenditures of the district. So again, that's a summary of the audit. And again, we're in the process of making the final changes to it to get it finalized and also move forward. Any questions about any of that?
I was just curious.
You said a term that I found interesting. You said that you do an audit with a bit of professional skepticism. Explain that to me, or give me an example of that.
So it's required, conducting an audit, that you don't just accept what's given to you. You have some skepticism so that you're able to test appropriately the amount that you're required to test. So it's just a kind of a foundation of conducting an audit, that you don't just necessarily blindly accept what's given to you. You have to take everything with skepticism. So that's basically what it is.
I was just trying to figure out what would be an example of something that you found and, you look at and say, what the process is.
So an example would be, for example, a cash balance that you're in. We would not just, let's say that someone at the district told us it was $1,000, the balance is $100,000. We would not just say, okay, we're good, we close it to 1,000. We would get confirmation of that amount, we would get a bank statement. So it's basically taking the information to get and justifying it, or improving the value of it.
I just hadn't heard that term.
Sure.
Overall, how did we do on this? Audit? You feel like we came out okay? If we had a grade, how do you feel we came out with this audit?
Right. So, like I said, it's always positive to have the fund balance increasing, which again happened during the years. The other thing that I wanted to mention is there's a separate report that gets filed with ISB, which summarizes in a different format these financial results, and they basically grade your results. So the draft that we have, that we prepared, which is again getting finalized in the next few days, shows a score of about 3.8 out of 4, 4 being the highest, which puts the district in the highest category according to industry's increases.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Mr. Bissell.
Sure. I wanted to just thank Ms. Sullivan, Ms. Coleman, and the entire staff for helping us through the process. So, again, thank them and thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so carrying on, I have.
Before you start, Mrs. Owens, can you talk about, I know tonight that they're going to be voting on a facilities assessment. Do you want to speak about that really quickly?
Sure.
Turn that button.
Okay. So, at the last board meeting, there was a discussion regarding the facilities assessment because there is a cost, and the evaluation was done previously from Aramark. However, it was not comprehensive, and to best suit our needs to improve the buildings,
overall, we need a comprehensive facilities assessment. And while going through ESSER 3, we were able to find that there is monies that we can allocate towards it. And so there's some money that we did not use and we won't be able to use because we've passed that point. And so we have enough to cover the facilities assessment. Should the board approve it, the grant will be amended and we can move forward. And so we did find funds within the grant to do so.
How much of it?
The $25,000 is for the facilities assessment. Oh, I was really happy to see that we had some funds that we were able to move around. And I said, hey, Dr. Brunson, how about we apply this here to the facilities assessment? And she thought that would be a great idea. And so there we are, should the board allow. Moving forward, I'll touch on the change orders. So we won't be bringing change orders to you today for approval. We have had some discussion and in closed session, there is documents from legal that the board will have to address at that point. So we did not bring anything other than that for the change orders. And then I'll go into, I'll put all of the other items into a presentation. So for the fund balance, we have the November of 2021 comparison to the November of 2022. I brought my paper this time. For November of 2022, the beginning fund balance is $38,776,100. For the revenue, we have $6,419,211.20. And I want to pause right there. Our revenue are low because of the delay in the tax bill. The tax bill was due, they were sent out in December and they were due December 30th. And so depending on who paid their tax bill, that will determine what we actually collect. And then we'll start to see this number increase. For the expenditures for November, we're still at November 2022, $17,834,457. It keeps going down. I think the battery's low. I'll speak up because I think the battery is low. Okay, thank you. All right, and for the fund balance, the final fund balance for 2022, we're looking at $27,360,854.30. Considering we are primarily using our fund balance, our beginning fund balance to cover it, the district is in really good position, considering the revenues have not really come in yet. As far as November of 2021, this time, our beginning balance was $38,815,917.60. Our revenue during that time was $17,527,073.63. Big difference. And then our expenditures, we were at $12,848,332.51. Now, when I took a look at those two numbers, I said, hey, there are some different things that's happening. And one, we have insurance increase, and then we also have a salary increase. We also have filled a lot of the vacancies, as well as the increase with the CBA for both of our unions. And so we're going to see an increase from prior year to this year, especially in the salary and benefits area. And then as far as our ending fund balance for November of 2021, we were at $43,494,658.72. I am looking forward to the tax revenues rolling in so that our fund balance will shift once again and we will be in a similar position as we were in prior years. Any questions regarding the fund balance comparison from November of last year to November of this year? No. Very well. Thank you. For our STEM admin monthly expenditure report, we didn't have a lot of
we did have 2 change orders that were approved by the board. Those are the only things that have been added, and that's the only addition we have. So our original beginning balance that was sent out to the community was $5,800,960. After the bid process took place after COVID, and our economy shifted and the prices of everything increased very, very high, especially lumber. And so the price ended up increasing to $7,701,035 for the project. With the change orders added, that brought the project up to $8,092,006.30. I wanted to do this snapshot to show where we are. The construction costs alone, we have paid out, and I'm not sure if everybody can see where I am. I'm here. Thank you. I'm trying to use, I don't know if it will work, but I'm here under the construction cost for the STEM. We are at $7,665,042.08. That is how much we have paid out. We have a remaining balance. There is a slight discrepancy. The remaining balance for what I have reported as what I understand it should be is $583,892.20. When I took a look at the remaining balance from the construction company, they have $531,686.90. And I noticed that there was a $52,205.30 difference, which is actually a change order. And according to what I understand, it should not be in the construction cost. It should be in the column for change orders. So it's still accurate. It's just a matter of which column it should really be in. And then we have the built-in cash allowance. When we do construction projects, there's an allowance that's built in for change orders. And of the $130,000 that was built in, we have spent $129,898.12. Now again, that built-in cash allowance is built into the original beginning balance. It's not in addition to, it's built in. When we have the next column, this is the architect's cost. We have paid out $760,121.07 to the architects, and as of now, we owe $5,650.60. And this number is not concrete because once the final change orders go in, they go into the beginning balance, and the beginning balance, then there is a 9.5% rate that the architects receive based on that. So that number is not completely solid, but that's where we are today. And then finally, we have the reimbursables and additional services. Any change orders over the built-in cash allowance or over a certain dollar amount, the board has to approve it, and then we put it in this column to show the cost that were not originally included. And that's already listed in the beginning balance, highlighted in yellow with the change orders, is just to show it separately of how much that is. So that is where we are as far as the STEM expenditures. Are there any questions regarding this report?
Yes, can you tell what that dollar amount is that is in that last column, that overage? I know you said it's 129 that's built in.
Yes.
What is in excess of that?
When you say what is in excess, you're speaking of the $101.88?
Whatever change orders, okay, I don't know how to say it. That very last column.
The orange. Are you speaking of the orange column?
I didn't understand where you were with the last statements that you made, and so I'm trying to make sense of it. You stated that there was $129,000 that was built in, and anything that the board has to approve.
Okay.
What is that amount?
So the built-in cash allowance began at $130,000. And so that dollar amount is a part of the construction cost. It's a part of the original balance. It's just that that is an allowance, what we're allowed to spend for change orders without board approval. The board has to approve anything outside of that amount. And so those things have been brought to the board, and the board has approved any change orders outside of that amount.
Okay, so outside of that amount, that's that dollar amount I'm asking, is that 486, is it 390?
So the column so the last column where it says reimbursables, additional service items, that column includes all of the change orders as well as anything additional. So if they have to print up blueprints, they won't know ahead of time what those cost. And then once they pay for it, then they bill us and then we pay it. So that's also in that column. So that column represents change orders in excess of the built-in allowance as well as any additional reimbursables.
Okay. We'll discuss it January 31st, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Owens, is this my numbers are a little bit different.
From this,
The orange is different.
okay, so I did do a little something different with the orange. I wanted to show it as a negative, just because these were in addition to or outside of the architect construction cost and built-in allowance. And so what you see, there was, inside of there, it was a little bit lower. That's only because there was a change order that was brought before the board, and we were able to work something out without having to add an additional fire hydrant. And so that cost that was there, because it was removed, it made it look lower. So I took it out, so that way it would not show as if it was not, as if it was calculated in incorrectly. So that's why that last column, they say $400,000 and some odd thousand. You're welcome. Any other questions regarding the STEM expenditure report? Okay. Now we have the BMO monthly expenditure report. I won't go through every line item. However, these expenditures are not in addition to the accounts payable. They are included in the accounts payable. It just shows what was placed on the credit card that we submitted through accounts payable. And so the total credit card expenditure for this last cycle was $11,078.05, where $11,752.36 was the original expenditures, and $674.31 was credited back to the card. Are there any questions regarding the BMO report? That concludes my report.
Thank you so much.
I have one question. So your HR is under your department. So I'm wondering if we can have a presentation of what we're doing to fill the vacancies, because this is kind of the time of year when we need to really be doing that aggressively as teachers are trying to make decisions as to where they're going to go and people are graduating, things of that nature, because I just want to see how close can we get to filling all of our vacancies so that our core subjects have certified teachers and not subs.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we'll, next board meeting, we have a presentation from HR already set to go, and we'll add that as well.
Don't try it.
Yes, so we're already
I
ready.
just didn't want to have like 9 presentations.
So we are ready for February's board meeting, and we'll make sure that that is added as well. Any other questions? You're welcome.
But before you send us a vacancy list, like once a week or something,
Yes.
I know we received it already.
Do we have anyone who wants to address the board? Audience to visitors? I do have to read, I'm sorry. you want to go into closed session, or would you like to speak in front of everyone?
I'm very transparent, so I don't know you guys will like me. All right.
I would like you
You
to
have to
speak.
read
I
our,
do have to read.
until we adjust it.
It's a little lengthy, so if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
me too,
The Board of Education Public Comments Form. Comment forms submitted after the start of the regular board meeting will not be addressed. The Board of Education will not engage in a debate. If a comment or question requires additional research or data, the district will post such information to the district website within 5 business days of the board meeting. All responses to questions may be reviewed under the Board of Education drop-down menu at www.dist159.com. The Board of Education meeting is a business meeting held in public. Please note the Board of Education practice requires that members not respond to the public. Attendees are advised to refrain from making comments to the Board of Education as well. If you are unable to speak, you may submit your comments in writing and it will be shared with each board member. The Board of Education recognizes the rights, the desire of the public to express their thoughts concerning the school district by way of making a public comment. Anyone wanting to address the Board of Education should do so in an orderly manner during the public comment portion of the meeting. In order to ensure an orderly meeting, however, comments, disruptions, and/or outbursts during the business portion of this meeting will not be permitted. If members of the public disrupt the Board of Education meeting, we will take any and all steps necessary in order to ensure the proper decorum is reestablished. This can include such persons being removed from the premises so that we can accomplish the necessary business of the board. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Persons making public comments will be allowed 3 minutes. The Board of Education may extend to reduce the time limit at its discretion. The Board of Education will limit the number of public comments on a particular topic or issue. If you are a member of the group of organization involving the same issue, you should coordinate your comments with others to avoid repetition.
After all that, first off, for those of you that do not know me, and I love that I know most of you up here, my name is Michael Jones. I am the Chief of Police here in the Village of Madison. And I want to congratulate you first on this awesome building. Over the last 26 years, I have watched District 159 blossom, just blossom, and be one of the most progressive school districts in the area, which I am proud to be associated with. Because what you guys have is a lot of the passion and commitment that I have for the kids here. And that has translated into a collaboration over the last 8 years of our school resource program. And when I say school resource program, I don't mean just one officer. However, we do have one officer that's dedicated to District 159. I mean, it's not about safety and security, which is oftentimes what a lot of people put on us as a label. What this school resource program is enrichment, empowerment, and education. And it's allowed me to focus, train, and educate my officer to only deal with the children of School District 159. And he's taught classes such as, now I'm at a blank, of course, of school bullying. He's taught classes on social media use. He's taught classes on coping skills and positive decision-making skills. He has made it a point to know the kids on a first-name basis. And nothing was more apparent to my knowledge of this. Now, I'm just the person that tries to implement these positive things for our kids. What was more apparent when I was invited to an assembly pre-COVID at Seton Prairie, and the principal introduced me to not only the kids but the parents. You know, we want to introduce Chief Jones, our police chief, and I got an applause. And then she says, everyone knows School Resource Officer Evans, and he literally got a standing ovation from all these kids, and I looked at him and thought, what the heck is that? That is enrichment at its finest. And I would put our school resource officer and our focused training against any school resource program in the area. So we have been collaborating on this for the last 8 years. And I've seen it grow in terms of, and this wasn't Chief Jones's idea. All of a sudden, Officer Evans is like, I'd like to teach this class on technology and social media use to the parents of School District 159. And he did. I don't know how well attended it was, but I know it was well received. Those are the things that I love about our collaboration, and I would ask that you guys ask any questions you want, whether it's now or later, but to consider keeping this going, because for me, it's not, my focus is not just District 159, unfortunately. I still have the entire village to worry about, and oftentimes the entire region. And we do the best we can. And I'm very, very fortunate. I tell everybody that I am the luckiest chief in the Southland because of all of the relationships that we've developed and the positivity that we've done here in the Village of Madison for our parents, our kids. And it's really about leaving your environment better than what it was for you having been there. And when we teach our cops and students together, our CAS camp every summer for our kids, and we're bringing them on a ski trip, I'm constantly telling them that. How do you make your community better for you having been there? So I'm going to offer myself up for any questions that anybody has. I think that we've made great strides. We had a tough time during COVID, but you guys are back and better than ever. And I'm just happy to be here. So thank you.
I do have one question. And you guys have a cadet program. Is that offered to our Colin Powell children?
100%. We also do a mentorship program, which is strictly for District 159. And we collaborate quite a bit. We utilize Colin Powell School as our home base. And that mentorship program, we've been able to, it's an award-winning mentorship program. And I don't take, that's not me doing it. We have people that out of 159 that actually work with our officers. So yes, a lot of it is focused here at 159.
I guess the question of the board pretty much is, if we didn't have a contract with you all, would we still receive those same resources, or would it be completely different?
Unfortunately, it would be completely different. Okay. I hate that. But I have a balance with my own board and my finance director. But this opportunity to collaborate gives us the ability. So I want you to say it's not. I am investing in just as much as you guys are, because I'm paying for all the specialized training that we wouldn't have those opportunities unless we have that school resource officer designation. And there's a lot that goes into it, as it should be. Just like you guys are investing in your teachers to bring them to the next level. This is a next level school resource officer that is focused not on just safety and security or making an arrest of a kid that went out. This is mediation. This is inspiration. This is integrity, and teaching the kids from our side that this is how we make the world a little bit better. And I think that I've seen this just progress in this school district more than any of the other school districts. And I come from what I look at as a regional type of law enforcement, and I don't even like that word law enforcement, because 80% of the time we're not enforcing any law. It's more mediation enforcement, all right? In terms of all of the schools in the Southland. So that's kind of what we're doing is that focused, training-based, but we need that designation as a certified school resource officer to have those opportunities. And some of that training, we also offer up to your administrators and sometimes your staff when you guys are able to go to. So it opens up that opportunity for the training through the state of Illinois and nationally, because we have that designation as a school resource officer.
I have a question that's it might sound a little harsh.
No worries.
we pay taxes. We live in Matteson, we pay taxes. And our taxes pay for police officers. And then when we get a SRO, then we pay again. So it's almost like double taxation. So there are community members who didn't or don't fully understand paying taxes for police officers and then turn around and pay again because we want one of those officers to be our SRO. How would you respond to that?
Because this is a specialization of police officer response. We can go back to, typically I will have only 3 officers to maybe 5 officers working the streets. I have about 37 officers, sworn officers in my department. We should be around 50. So that is a disservice to the Village of Madison and all of its residents, not just the, what did you say, 1,700 students that go here? I'm talking the 20,000 residents to the Village of Madison. And what Village Administrator Anthony Burton says is, we're a small town with big city problems because most cities of our size, 20,000 residents, do not have 9 car dealerships, 8 hotels, 7 schools, 3 mega churches, as well as several other churches. We are a destination. We have over 850 traffic crashes per year. It's more than 2.5 per day. In order to get to the Village of Frankfort or the Village of Chicago Heights or Ruby Fields off of I-57, you have to travel through Madison. That is something I have to manage. And I have to manage all the training. So when I have 3 officers and I want to dedicate one to the school that's working on day shift, then I have 2 officers that are working the entire Village of Madison, all 20,000 residents, and I have to balance that. And it's not just my decision. This is a decision of our finance director. So I don't look at it as double dipping. I look at it as a collaborative investment between School District 159 and the Village of Madison in getting these extra traits and training and dedication and service. And I know for a fact that all of the principals and all of your school administrators support this program because they all used him. I wish I can tell you, as the police chief here, that I could invest in that. But it's the same thing I tell, like, our churches. Our churches are like, well, we'd like an officer to direct traffic during these hours. And I cannot forego the rest of the community just for you. Now, it's not just the school resource officer, it's a school resource program. And I invest a lot. Every time you guys have a graduation and you have, I don't know how many people come to that graduation, but I hear it's a lot. I reassign all of my detectives to help you guys get the security that you guys need and the traffic control and everything at your graduations. Because it's a big event. During COVID, I invested our community police coordinator to make home visits because some of the kids were not logging into school. So there is an investment on my part as well. This program is above and beyond, and it's dedicated to the students and the parents, and I would dare say the teachers and principals and administrators of all of your schools. If I could, and I had, because I still have to answer to my board and the taxpayers of the Village of Madison, if I could, I would put a dedicated officer trained to that aspect in every single one of those schools. But I don't even have that many police officers. So it's a delicate balance, but it's been a very, very fruitful program for, like I said, the parents, the teachers, the students. And I would like to see it continue.
Did I hear you say you have 34, 37 officers?
37.
With only 2 or 3 on the street? What are the rest of them doing?
You understand that we work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So
But at any
it's all
given
based.
time, you're telling me there's 3
Yeah.
on the street?
It's broken down into different times based on call volume. We handle 24 to 25,000 calls of service per year. And so between 2 a.m. and I
Okay.
classes, but certain hours might only have 3 officers, certain hours might have 5. And then I have a detectives unit, criminal investigations unit, that's following up on stuff. We have administration, we have, and then there's also court time where officers have to go to court. Transport officers where they're taking individuals to different areas. And
They're all called officers, whether they're on the street or not.
yeah,
Now, my question is,
26 of them are patrol officers.
for the SRO, what would the workday look like for him? Because,
I think that we've outlined it and presented it to you.
okay,
He does a lot of, I mean, I'm gonna tell you this, and you guys are in similar positions, where your phone is always ringing, his phone is always ringing too. It's because he's managing all of the schools. We've even farmed him out to Neil Armstrong and Richmond Park to teach classes because he's specialized. He's specialized with the training in a lot of different areas. But he is, even when he has downtime, he's walking around the school and then checking doors to make sure they're all locked. And that little aspect, it's probably, you can ask your principals at least once a week where he's finding an unlocked door. And we know what those can lead to. So he's constantly focused on District 159. Yes, ma'am.
The contract states that the officer reports directly to you and that on an as-need basis, he can be reassigned if you deem it necessary. How frequently have you seen that happen, and what do you anticipate could potentially happen percentage-wise where you are reassigning the SRO to other duties outside of this district?
I can tell you this, just like I reassigned all of my detectives during this last incident that we worked with Dr. Brunson with. I reassigned them from investigations to undercover work in every single one of our schools in town. Every single one of your schools had either a detective, a marked officer, or both. So just like I can reassign them to fit the needs of the school district, in an emergency, if I need to pull him out of the school because there is, God forbid, somebody please knock on wood, a major incident going on somewhere else, I would reassign him. In terms of percentage-wise, very far and few between. Because I want him, and I think he has over the years been at almost every parent mediation, and I think that he has been and we don't get involved. It's pretty much every time we're in support of whatever the school wants, and just giving you guys the strength and backup to positively resolve any kind of conflict. So that's where he is needed.
Thank you so much.
Anything else?
I wanted to say thank you for the incident on Monday. We had an officer in front of every school, and they put us at ease a little bit. The kids were nervous, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we think you guys did a phenomenal job
Phenomenal.
in how you managed that whole threat situation. You did a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Well, I think together, the education piece that needs to follow with our kids is just as important as what we did beforehand. So I hope to partner with you guys on that aspect. Okay?
I got one thing for you, Chief, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
With the SRO designation, how much, if any, is state or federally funded to the PD for having that SRO designation?
Nothing. We don't have a grant for that. Okay? Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all so much. Thank you all for the community, the families. Our administrative team tonight was very informational, and I believe that it was a great board meeting, to be honest. I'm looking forward to many more things that we have to accomplish and getting more robocalls and more things out to let you all know that we do feel it is very vital that we have our community, our parents, our staff, our administrators to keep us well informed of what's going on so we can make sound decisions as a board. So thank you all so much for attending tonight's meeting, and we look forward to you in February. And that concludes our Board of Education meeting while we go into closed session. So at this moment, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, collective bargaining, and board self-evaluation. Motion?
Second. Motion by Ms. Schoen, second by Ms. Burke. Roll call. Yes. Morales. Yes. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
Palmer. Yes. Phillips.
Yes.
Yes.
$926,528.24. Payroll for December 16, 2022, $919,563.63. Payroll for December 30th, 2022, $946,330.81. Accounts payables through December 31st, 2022, $942,652.25. Approval of Southwest Cook County Cooperative Agreement. Approval of the facilities assessment and motion.
Motion. Second.
Let me change it.
Motion by Ms. Edgecombe, second by Ms. Palmer. Roll call Brown. Edgecombe. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
Palmer. Yes. Phillips.
Yes.
And Scott.
Yes.
Motion to approve our support staff employment and termination. Creighton Watt, resignation custodian district-wide. John Snyder, hire crossing guard at Cedar Prairie. Elizabeth Tucker, hire lunch attendant crossing guard at Neil Armstrong. Candace Brown, hire custodian at Neil Armstrong. Alicia Drew, hire instructional assistant at Cedar Prairie School. Maria Oliver, salary adjusted bilingual instructor at Colin Powell. Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mrs. Palmer. Roll call Brown. Edgecombe. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
And Scott.
Yes.
Motion to approve our SRO chief, our SRO officer, and motion to approve our memorandum of understanding with the pending Chris Petracca's update. Motion?